call on a Sunday. And that too, shouldn't this be more of a choice to work? I mean, it is pressurizing this even on boys to work. You are the carrier of the family. Thinking, how will I survive? Namaskar. Before I begin this podcast, I want to make a small request. Please subscribe to this channel because we believe that every woman has a voice and that needs to be heard. And it takes less than few seconds for you to subscribe to this channel so that this voice reaches every corner. Thank you. And with that, let's begin. She Thrive believes that every individual woman has a story to share and that should be heard, that deserves to be heard. Today, we are listening to one that is shaped by loss, love, and quiet resilience. My name is Prerna. I'm your leadership coach, a posh consultant, a soft skill trainer, and a founder of a company called Thrive Edge, which is built with a vision to make workplace worth living. Our guest today is a posh certified trainer, a workplace respect and prevention specialist, leadership and sales facilitator. She's also an ex-employee in Dale Carnegie and Nestle. What does it really take to keep growing when life doesn't go as planned? Our today's guest, Shikha Goyal, has some answers, and it's not the one that you're expecting. So let's dive in. Hello, Shikha. Most welcome to She Thrive. How are you doing today? Thank you. A very good morning to all the viewers and to you. And thanks so much for giving me this platform. Thank you so much for joining in, Shikha. I know that you're keeping quite busy, but taking time to share your story with the people, I'm honored, and I'm sure that my guest will have a day filled with a lot of energy, excitement, and a lot of information that will help them. So, before we begin, Shikha, we were talking off late about it, and you called yourself a performance enabler, and I love that phrase. You also told me something that is interesting is that everyone assumes that you're an extrovert, but you are actually not. So, who I'm really talking to? The person on the stage or the person with her quiet cup of coffee? Yeah. So, Prerna, who am I? Or for anyone, who the person is? That's a very deep question, right? And initially, whenever I thought about it, it kind to unsettle me. I used to feel very unsettled because from the very childhood, we are being told we should have answers. Answers to questions, introductions we used to rehearse when we used to go to interviews. But who am I is something beyond the roles that I play. I play a role of a performance enabler in my professional life. But who actually I am, it's very difficult to describe in words. And as I said, once you know that who you really are, you don't need any validation. And it took me some time to understand who really I am. And if I have to put it in words, I am a work in progress. And why I say so is because that's nice. What existed, say, a couple of months ago or a day before yesterday, that still is with me. The dreamer, the lover, the mother, everyone is still with me. But I'm a better version of that today. So describing my all those moments into few words becomes really difficult. Still, I would say I am a person who's work in progress, a lifelong learner, and the pauses that has come during those thoughts, I am collection of those. So lovely. Who I am is something not to be described by words, but it is something that you will experience when you live with me or when you meet me. Lovely. That is who I am. Very nice. Loved it. You have spent 20 years, Shikha, helping people, unlock their potentials because you've been into leadership and other facilitation programs. So when was the last time that you really helped someone and you see that, something changing that you really did not expect, but that happened? That's a very nice question. First of all, the 20 plus years that I've spent with people around me, it's not me only unlocking their potential. They have made me a better version of me also. Because with every person you meet, you learn something, right? So that is one part to it. Now, coming to the second part, where you asked that in terms of had it ever been somebody who made me think about something which I did not realize? That's what your question was, right? Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, some transformational story which yes, you did not expect but see, happened. Till the time I was working in the corporate, I was very clear about the roles that I have to do, the deliverables that I have to give. Now, when I'm working as an independent consultant, you face a lot of rejections. Let's be honest. Yeah.
And those rejections are not easy to take because you're building a system. Your income is dependent on that system, unlike a
Mm.
paycheck, which comes when you are working in a corporate. So
Yeah.
when I started this journey, there was this one client which I was chasing very badly. I got the business. 3 years I worked with them very nicely. Everything was going good. Suddenly, this year, when the contract was supposed to be renewed for the fourth year, they went to another vendor.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine for a freelancer or an independent consultant, that can be really challenging. So,
Yeah.
in my life, there are many people. I have been fortunate enough to be blessed with people who always push me very hard, who believe in me very strongly than what I believe in myself. So, my
Oh, very nice.
sister, the other day when I was sharing this with her and I was very upset, so she said, remember why you are doing this. You tell people that rejection is not something to be taken seriously. Follow that. This is a redirection for you. And that stayed with me. And till now, my perspective to see things have changed. Now, when I get rejected for a proposal or for a training, I think it is a redirection to something better. And the
Very
good part
nice.
is, after losing that proposal, I have got another client where I'm working for 6 months now continuously, 40 sessions. So
Hmm.
that stays with me, that many times in life we think, oh my God, I am rejected. But that rejection is actually a redirection for you. So that's what we
Very.
have to remember. So I would say my sister is one person who has always been a very support strong system. And whenever I am down, she is the one who tells me what I have and what I can do better.
Lovely. We all have to have that guide in our life who shows us direction often, and we can choose that guide. And wonderful part is that you've got that in your sister. Lovely. I'm sure that every person has some, and if not, then you should make it. So if something you shared something with me that I want to sit with for like a couple of seconds. You said intent versus impact. Your intention about what you're doing. So every consultant basically enters this professional journey with some noble intent, isn't it? But not everyone creates an impact. So, was there a moment in your life, in your early career, where you actually realized that your intent was not translating into impact yet, and you were trying to figure out your ground why you were doing all of this? Was there a moment with you?
So let's understand where it came from, the intent versus impact. So just to give you a brief background, I got married and then I had a miscarriage, my first miscarriage after 3 years of my marriage when I was expecting at 6.5 months.
Okay.
Unfortunately, then again, after say 7th year of my marriage, when I conceived again, there was a second miscarriage which happened, which was again at 6.5 months. So there was this a senior colleague of mine who was a mentor also and very open to me. So while we were having this discussion when I joined back, so she very politely and subtly said, your clock is ticking, Shikha. Maybe it is the time for you to focus more on that side rather than focusing on your career. And this I am saying you as a woman, don't take it otherwise. This is something that I really like you. I like your work, everything, but still, her intent was very good. If you look at that. But what was the impact on me as an individual? I started doubting that. That is it my career which is leading to my miscarriages? Because all those time I have been working and working with the same kind of dedication, determination,
Yeah.
accountability. So a self-doubt arose. That was the moment I realized that even if when we are talking to people, our intent may be very good, but the impact can be very detrimental. And that's from where I started realizing that whenever I'm speaking to people, even if the intent is good, I have to first think about the impact. And now, when I am in this field, that time I was in sales. Now, when I am in this field where I am training, I am meeting people, I am telling them so many things, that stays with me. That whatever I am asking them to do, a framework or any tool or any behavioral change, my intent is good, but what could be the impact? So how do I deliver it in a manner that they see the positive side and do not move to the paradigm where they start doubting that I missed that, so therefore maybe I am not moving ahead in my career. That should not happen. So that is from where this intent versus impact came in my life, when it was just hardly 7 years in my career. Since then I am mindful of this.
Very nice, very lovely. And with that, it brings me to a very subtle next question. I mean, since you said, that intent of that lady was nice, but of course, it hit. So, apparently I see that, the way women's grow in their life, and we are being conditioned to be good and to be not offensive with anybody and don't hurt anyone's sentiment. We are being, I mean, every general women I'm talking with respect to, they are being, trained or educated in their houses in subtle ways, which stops them from being ambitious at some point in time. And then again, we encounter this intent versus impact. How do you think that this is shaping the current women's, the struggle of the women's that we are seeing today in the world, in the universe? Does it has to do with this, and how today's girls can really overcome this as per your thought process?
So that's a very interesting question, Prerna. Now, if you look at my generation, I'm talking about 20 years back, the conditioning used to be like that. Though my parents were very different, let me tell you that. They gave me wings. They never said that your path is going to be marriage and then have kids. They always said, you decide your path. We are giving you
Yeah.
wings. So I as I
Yes.
said, I've been very fortunate. Now, many girls during that time were not like that. Their parents were not like that. As you mentioned, they were conditioned to be an ideal daughter in law, conditioned to have that clock ticking, have a child very soon, take a back seat in their career if their family requires it, which is not bad. I don't say that is bad. What changes today is that because of the awareness in the society and the way society is moving forward, the women being ambitious also know where to draw the boundary in terms of what people ask or what society asks from them. That boundary we could not draw. I hope I am making that point clear. The difference between today and what we were. That
Yeah.
boundary was difficult to draw 20 years back. Today it is very easy. If I am a career woman, I am mentally prepared, or I am more aware that I need a strong backup support system, right? I am more mentally prepared that if I have to move in my career ahead, I have to do trade-offs. I will not be a perfect mother, I will not be a perfect wife, right? So today's women is very clear, and sometimes they are clear to an extent. I don't want to be a wife. Why do I need a partner only? So I am independent. I don't want to get married at an age when everybody says you should get married. Why should I get married? So the clarity of thought in today's women in terms of what they want to achieve and how is much better. That's what I would like to say here.
Yeah. Why do you think that earlier women's were not very clear and they are more clear now? So why do you think in your words?
Again, the same thing, conditioning. See now how we are bringing our boys, or for that matter, our girls, is quite different from what it was before. So, a very simple example I'll give you from my own life. As I said, my parents gave me wings. So, when I completed my 10th standard, I was good in studies. So, my parents wanted and knew that I wanted to do something with my life. I don't want to go the normal path. So, they sent me to a boarding school at that young age. Many people in my father's friend circle, in our relatives, questioned that choice. Why are you sending her? She has to get married. She has to settle down. What is the point spending so much of money? So many parents at that time were of this opinion or of this conditioning also, that girls means get married, have a good life, have settled. Not many parents supported their kids to that extent. And I've seen it in
Yeah.
my own peer group.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but
One
that
is a
happens.
girl making that choice. Like my sister, she worked for a year and she said, no, that's not I'm going to do. I like being a family person. I don't want to be a corporate person. She made that choice intentionally.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That is a different thing. One is the forced one. Previously, it used to be more of a forced one, the meeting the expectations.
Hmm. So don't you think, since we're talking, but I'll come down to your question of, your father sending you and then stereotype around it. But before that, your conversation just hit me there that shouldn't this be more of a choice to work? I'm not saying only for girls or for boys. Even the society's pressurizing this even on boys to work. You are the carrier of the family. Now, in today's context, shouldn't this be
Yes.
a choice whether you want to work or not? I mean, if your partner is making a good amount of money and you want to be a homemaker, whether you're a boy or a girl, I think we should be rather more acceptive to this fact rather than judging person that you're a strong woman, you have to work. If you're not working, you're not worth it. Or you are a man, you have to drive the family. Isn't it a time to talk about it?
Absolutely, and that's the point. You have really hit the nail. Why do we expect a boy to be a bread earner or a male to be a bread earner and a female to be a primary caregiver? This is what a society, or we, I wouldn't even say society, I would say me as a mother, my husband as a father, you or your husband or people around us, we need to change that in our upbringing. So what is wrong if my son tomorrow chooses to be a primary caregiver at home and his partner, I'm not even saying wife, because we don't know 25 years down the line marriage will be a concept or not. So
Yes.
his partner, whosoever, male, female, whosoever, why can't that be the primary pattern? That should be the understanding between two people, not governed by the conditioning or by the rules of the society. And that's the point, very valid point you have brought. And that is where we now, people like you and me, the way we are upbringing our children, we are trying to bring that change. We are trying to teach them skills that are not gender specific. Like
Yes.
my son cannot play with a kitchen set, or my son cannot make tea. I am not doing that. Whatever he wants to do, do it. Give
Lovely.
him
And
that
I mean, yeah,
freedom
we
to
should
think.
bring about, yeah, through these conversations, I think we need to break those taboos about the society, and that change is much required because it is pressureful situation, you know. If you don't want to work or you want to sing or you want to take your career to some other place, but you just, and guys also, you know, they kill all their dreams because they have to
Yeah,
take care of the family. You know, they just finish, they just vanish off on their dreams because there's no other way to do it. I think, you know, we should
right.
really think about it. And like, as you said, we should now raise our voice also with the thought process that it's okay if you are choosing not to work or you are choosing you know, some other aspiration of your life, and no pressure on you only to drive the family. And
Yes.
that's what empowerment looks like. Lovely. Taking a back step where we were talking about that turning point, and you mentioned that your father chose to send you away from home to a better school as a child, and then there were a lot of judgments around it. So take me back there. What did that first night away from your parents actually feel like to you as a person, and then what happened all around it?
So I'll say there are two aspects to it. Now I'll talk about Shikha. That was at that time, right? First aspect. So that time it was very difficult to get away from the comfort of your home, the security of being with your parents in a known environment, right? And then first night at the hostel in a dormitory full of 20 girls, because it was a dormitory, not knowing anyone, and a bed which is completely unknown, and it used to be a bunker bed. So I was on the top side of the bunker, and then thinking, how will I survive? That was the first thing. The survival was the question there without my parents, because you have always been in that secure environment, right? Coming to the second stage now, when I look back, I really thank my parents, because that very time gave me the strength to be on my own, to make decisions on my own, to be independent. And the skill that many children today do not have is being resilient. In a hostel, there are moments when you feel very alone. There is no one, right? Those are the moments you yourself have to push that yes, you can do it. That yes, this is not the end. And those times, remember, there was no mobiles like WhatsApp or even those phones. We were allowed only to make a call on a Sunday. And that too, a period was defined. If in that period your parents are able to make that STD call, you were able to get through them. Otherwise, wait for the next Sunday. You keep writing letters, right? One letter will go, another will come. By that time, probably that problem is gone. So that time, in that times, what it taught me is something which is very important skill, resilience. Today, whatever I am because of that initial years of my life where my parents sent me all alone. I had to manage everything on my own. And how that translates me to be a better professional, now I know that whenever I'm sitting in front of a person, that person may or may not have seen such things. So better understanding, empathy, better listening, all that has developed in me because of that. And I always say to my husband, we will once at least send our son to a hostel just to make him learn all these skills, because in home you cannot. You are very protected.
So you said that your parents invest not only like invested in your education, but they also kind of built your character by doing this, resilience and ability to fight your own emotions and situations and, create your own path. So would you also parent your son with the same philosophy, or maybe have some experience changed, like how much you had to let go things? How will you do that as a parent?
So see, Prerna, that's a very good question that you have asked. As much confident as I may sound when I am talking about my professional life, the self-doubt arises when I am a parent, as a mother. Why that happens is because, as I said, being a mother, it makes you strong and vulnerable both at the same time. So when
True.
it comes to the parenting style, what I would like to follow, it would be more based on the value system, not skill. And why I say so? The reason is, look at the times that we are into. It is changing so fast. The way AI has come in, or the VUCA world that we are working into, today something is working, tomorrow suddenly it stops, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So skills may change. Your value system is something that will make you sustain. So what I'm trying to teach my son is have that strong value system in terms of integrity, in terms of honesty, in terms of having that emotional quotient. He's too young to understand all that. But the seeds of these values, we have to start building from the time he is born. I'm not even saying when he is 5. The time he is born, with the stories, with the kind of games that you play, all that will build his character. So skills may open one door for him. Character is what will help him, or these values is what will help him keeping those doors open. What my parents' parenting style was: give me freedom, let me attain skills, let me make my choices. Those remain. What more I will focus upon is, because of the environment, is in terms of a more stronger value system.
Really inspiring also, and with set of values that you said that you will raise, of course, because technologies will change, skills will upgrade. There are a lot of things that we are seeing today which were never existent maybe 5 years back then, right? But we have evolved with it, and the only thing which is today which is evident is uncertainty. The VUCA word that you said. So yeah, I
Yes.
mean, absolutely right. So you were talking about your womanhood. So Shikha, what are the transactions or trade-offs you have done continuously in your life to be Shikha that we know today, or I'm talking with today? So there must be a lot of trade-offs that you would have done with yourself or life or transactions. Would you like to talk about it?
Yeah, sure. So, Prerna, first of all, not only me being a woman also, and even I feel trade-offs are not gender specific. If you talk about
Of course, of course.
anyone who is in a corporate life or a professional life, building a career, chasing his or her dreams, trade-offs is a common thing, whether it is a male or a female. Since you asked about me specifically, there are a lot of trade-offs that I have done over the period of time. So, one of those is that 100% I cannot give to every role every time. That is the biggest thing that I have done in terms of trade-offs. So when I was a full-time into corporate life, there were times when my role required something and I compromised on my family time. And there were times when my family required it and there was a big opportunity in front of me and I left it, just because the priority that time was family. Again, how is that you decide what trade-off you have to do is by your value system, because
So
you
true.
are aware where you want to go. And if this thing is aligned with where you want to go and who you are, then you do the trade off. If it is not aligned, then you don't do it. So that is how you choose between whether I need to do this or I don't need to do this. So one thing that I have done is that there were times when I am not given 100% to the role that I am performing. I've done that often in my corporate life.
Okay. Awesome. Lovely. Very nice, Shikha. So, Shikha, we were also talking about a couple of moments like you lost your father, and those two miscarriages that has shaped your early life. So, I mean, tell me about how did they affected your personality, maybe built or broken, or what impact does it had while Shikha was doing everything else in her life, to carry her ambition, but these two major incidences of losses in your life, how did they change you, build you, make better, or whatever?
It's a difficult thing to discuss though. So see, what happens is, I told you about my miscarriages, right? Both the miscarriage happened at 6.5 months. Unfortunately, after my first miscarriage, I lost my mother. So two things happened simultaneously. Now, when I was expecting my third child, which means after two miscarriages, the third one, at 8.5 months in COVID, I lost my father. I was 8.5 months pregnant. So that was a very difficult phase. When I lost my mother, at least my father was there. So your parents are your anchor in life. They provide you with that kind of security. When I lost my father during that time, in 8.5 months of pregnancy, I couldn't grieve also properly, because there was a fear. Already you have two miscarriages.
Yeah.
You are at an advanced stage of pregnancy. What if I cry, would it affect my baby? I used to cry, but then I used to control. Those emotions were built inside. There was a fear that how do I manage now without him? Because a lot of things rotated around him. But then what I learned with these incidents is that grief gives you a perspective in life, in the sense that it not only makes you strong, it also makes you realize that life moves on. Even when I was grieving with my father or with my mother or with the two miscarriages, my life did not stop. There were people who were expecting me to do things. There were commitments that I had to deliver, right? So life does not stop. That was the first learning. Second learning is that you always have a choice, that you live your life in a way that your parents or whosoever you loved, you have lost them, they see you and still feel that yes, they have given you the right values, right skills, and right upbringing? Or do you want to crash, sit down broken, leave everything, and just say, oh my God, what happened with me? So there is a choice. And again, with the support system that I had of my sister, of my family, of very good friends, I was able to make the first choice where I could come back much more stronger, much more resilient, much more emotionally intelligent, I would say. Because today, when I stand in a training session or when I'm with people, back of the mind I have that there is a story maybe like this with them also. So try understand them as a person first, rather than telling them what to do, what not to do. Understand them as a person. But that is one of the most difficult phases of my life, especially losing my father.
Sure. I can really see that when I'm talking to you that it's even difficult for you to communicate. But sometimes these reflections bring some sort of gratitude in us that what we have learned, what we have carried, and what we have to deliver. And it takes courage, Rika. A lot of people choose the other one, to grieve, to tell God that, this happened, that happened, and I'm not able to do this, etc. But there are other sort of peoples also and who are strong, resilient, and who choose to fight and navigate and prove that they have strong powers within them. And I'm glad that I'm talking to you today, and you were one of those who kind of navigated all of these difficult phases, and you're strong where you are today. Certainly it was not easy.
So
Easier said
Prerna,
than done.
just one point to add here. Uh, See, nobody wants to be broken. Let's understand that nobody likes that state of being in tears, not liking the way the life has treated them. What misses and what I was fortunate about was the support system. If you have a strong support system with you, the first choice becomes much more easy
Yeah.
to navigate
Yes.
or to move in that direction rather than the second. So I would again say it is something, again, I will say it is very important that you have a strong support system in any part of your life. That is very important. Unfortunately, in today's society is what something this is missing.
Yeah, you know, they say that women are more alone now rather than any centuries old. You look back in any decade, in today's context, women find themselves rather more alone. But then there are systems built around them, like crutches, daycare. They can take those external supports,
Yeah.
house helps, etc.
That support
But
system can be
that's not.
anything, but you have to build that.
Yeah, you have to build that for sure. You have to build that. And asking for support also. In one of the podcasts I discussed with one of my guests, and she said that, asking for help is a taboo. But now women are fighting with it. But it's important to ask for that help if you want to choose, what you want to get in your life.
Yes.
So thank you for sharing all of that, Shikha. So you have also worked in corporate. So how different it is from being in corporate to being independent consultant today?
That's a very good question and an interesting one. So, see, when you are in a corporate, two things are very different. I think every freelancer or an independent consultant would agree. Your roles are defined, right? Your deliverables are defined. And because of that, you have a system in place and you work according to that. And then you get your paycheck. So, you know, by the end of the month, this is what I'm getting. Now, versus when you are an independent consultant, it's not a single role. You are selling, you are delivering, you are coaching, so you're marketing because of the various platforms. So every role is yours, number one. Number two, you are building a system. That system is not handed over to you. Like in corporate, all the systems are existing. You just have to be following that system with authenticity, right? Whereas as an independent consultant, you are building that system. And
Right.
last but not the least, your income may or may not be proportional to your efforts,
Absolutely.
right? So that, having said that, independent consultant gives you freedom to choose, freedom to make that transformation in people, freedom to create a larger impact. So that is what the positive of being an independent consultant is. Whereas in a corporate, because your role is defined, you can take initiative, but to an extent. As an independent consultant, you are building that system, build it as large as you want, right? So that is the difference.
Right. Being a woman,
So I enjoyed both the roles.
I'm sure, and the more you enjoy, the better it becomes. So as a woman, especially, I want to talk about this as ambitious women rather. How does quitting feels like? So you're settled, like you said, it's a built-in system, and you just have to go and follow, abide by the rules, and you get paid, and you're secured that way. But then when you decide to quit, for an ambitious woman, how does that dip looks like to you?
Okay, so Prerna here, I understand where you are coming from, but what I would say is it was not quitting. It was navigating my career or my journey towards my dreams through a different path, right? So I would not say that why let's understand first why was I working. It was not because of only the pay that I was getting. It was because I loved talking to people, helping people understand people, and understand the nuances of why do they behave in the manner they behave, right? So paycheck was a part of it, but the reason why I enjoyed my work was because of this, right? Now when I left that corporate life and moved into independent consulting, I did not quit my dream in terms of helping people, in terms of transforming people, in terms of creating that dream. So I would not say I quit it. Quitting is something that you leave behind. I would say it's kind of a marathon where one part of the marathon I had completed, it's
Hmm.
moving to the next, and now I'm moving in that direction.
Nice.
And
It's a
as I
good way
said
of
before,
looking
both
at it.
the parts I enjoy.
Very nice. It's a very positive way of looking at it. I also, appreciate one thing that, when we were talking behind the cameras, you shared that you don't believe women can have it all. You said it very candidly, plainly, no hedging. I want to push you on that a little bit. Like, what's the trade-off that you did to personally made peace with it that women cannot have it all? Because in today's world, we see that you want to have it all, it's okay to have it all, and which is okay, choice of person, but you said it very candidly. So yeah, share something about it.
Okay, so because this was a women focused podcast, so I specifically said women cannot have it all. But what I believe irrespective of the gender, nobody can have it all, whether it is a woman or whether it is a man. Because now, when I see people around me, I realize that it's not only women, it's anyone who is chasing the dream, irrespective of the gender, they
Yeah.
need to do trade offs. They need to. Very simple example, my husband, who is working and I am now an independent consultant, he misses so many things with our child. Small moments. Those are also trade offs for him.
Yes,
And when I
absolutely.
show him, initially when he was growing up, the first walk that he did, he missed it because he was in the office. I was at home. I recorded it and I showed it to him. And he was like, I missed it. So it's not that women only do that. It's anyone, irrespective of the gender, will do that. Now, specifically coming to me, what trade-offs I have done? I have done many trade-offs. Lot many. The first one and the most important one I have done is I have left my corporate life. Though I love being an independent consultant, but my career was set. I was doing good. I wanted to go back after my maternity leave. But then, as I said, and why I today focus on having that support system, because that time I did not build that. As I told you, my father was there and then I lost him. Our initial thing was my father is there to support me in terms of how we move forward once I joined back corporate. And when he left, all of a sudden, and in that state, I could not design that support system. And once I could not design that, I chose to leave my corporate career and be with my son. That was an intentional choice. So that is the first trade-off that I have done. Apart from that, small trade-offs you do when you are chasing your dreams, in terms of not be there when you are supposed to be that perfect daughter-in-law, perfect wife. So all that trade-offs you do. But one thing that I have to be making a point about or very clear is this is something that you do intentionally. Do not regret it later on. That happened. Whenever you are doing that trade-off, be very clear that why are you doing it. Otherwise, later on you regret and you have that guilt. Don't live with that. Make that trade-off only when you are convinced that this is the right choice I'm making. That is important.
Feel small at any point in time when you did that trade-off and you make that decision? Did that make you feel small at any place, at any point in time?
No, I would not say that made me small because, as I said, it was intentional. Me
Hmm.
and my family, we discussed it through that what would be the right choice at this moment. That was very intentional decision. I am a person who's very detail oriented. So I did the pros and cons exercise, which I do for every small thing. That is my
Mhm.
habit. A very small decision also, if I have to make, I do pros and cons, and then I evaluate whether I have to do it or not. And intentionally, when I did that, I realized it is better that I be the primary caregiver as of now, considering the situation we were into. So that is where I never felt, or I never have that guilt or regret that I left my corporate career and I am doing this, or why I'm not getting clients. I was getting X salary, now I have a Y income.
Yeah.
So all those questions do not arise because
Mhm.
I know I made an intentional choice and I stand by it. See, there are two things in life: either take a decision and stand by it, or either take a decision and regret it. I belong to the first category. I take a decision, I stand by it to make it right.
Yeah. I mean, that's a way to do that. And yeah, I mean, it's okay. Something that you choose. And like I said, why to make a taboo around one thing that if I left a corporate, I've done a sin. I mean, we can choose always, right? Isn't it? To take a decision. And until unless we and our families around us are comfortable with that, and we as a person are satisfied and we don't regret,
Again,
it's a
even
good
if they are
choice.
not comfortable, Prerna, again, there is a thing that I would say. Many women, because I'm coming back to the same question that you asked in the beginning, that why do women do not pursue or take a back step? Why does that
Hmm.
happen? It is because of the fact that women look for approval and validation. Why do you need to look at that? Believe in your own conviction. You think I can manage, I can carry my responsibilities, I will go ahead. Why do I need an approval? I
Yes.
agree, there has to be a compatibility between you and your family in terms of, yes, I am taking that decision. That is a different thing. Do not go for validation. That is not required. It is you who needs to take that decision, own it, and move forward. Don't look for
Hmm.
validation. That is one thing I have learned in these years of my life, that don't look for approval and validation. People will still judge you. See, you breastfeed, people will judge you. Oh my God. You don't breastfeed, people will judge you. She gives bottle milk. You work. If your child is born, people will judge you. She's ambitious. You don't work. She left her job. She was doing so good. So any which ways, you will be judged. So
Yeah.
move with your own conviction. Don't look for approval or validation. That's my very strong belief.
Yes, yes. Even I was thinking about it today morning only for some reason that and you just said it right here that yeah, I mean, too much seeking validation at every point in time makes you weak. I mean, just believe in yourself and take thoughtful decisions. And now whatever you have taken, just enjoy that. Why to take so much pressure? Do you have any comments quickly? Before we move towards end of this program, any comments that you want to make on mental health of women today?
Okay. So
We
there
talked
is one thing, Prerna, mental health, that is very important. So what I would like to say to anyone who's listening, irrespective of the gender, women or men, please stop having that pressure to be perfect. And I say that especially for women, and especially for women who are young mothers or who are moving towards that direction of being a mother or of being married or being at a position in a corporate life. All these roles I am talking about. Stop being perfect. There is nothing called perfect. And that is where, when you stop doing that, no, chasing that perfection, your mental health will always be better. Give it your best. I'm not saying don't give your best. Give it your best. But stop chasing that perfection. And second thing, there is no right time or wrong time. Whatever you believe, whenever you believe, do it. Because time will go and then you will think, I should have done that. That was the better time. Don't wait for the right time. Just do it. Do it as and when an opportunity comes. Just do it. Believe and do it. So, two things: don't take pressure in terms of perfectionism, and don't wait for the right time. If you do these two things, I personally believe your mental health will be better. Mine is better
there are
actually. Now I
yeah,
don't wait for time. I have to do it. I have to do it. At
very
night, I
nice.
feel like I want to have Maggie. I will go cook Maggie and have it. I'll not wait tomorrow morning in breakfast. I'll have it. Have it.
Don't you think that social media has created a pressure, because the pressure of being perfection that you rightly talked about, and we see that framed perfection everywhere. We don't know, we are not entering into other people's life, but that the way we see it out there, that creates an unnecessary pressure that, that person is doing it, oh, that person is doing it so much, whatsoever you call it, but it happens. It gives an unnecessary
Yes.
pressure to people. Yeah.
Yes.
Hacks that you believe has helped you and you think can help other women's also when they see it, not only women's but anybody for that matter who is watching it, how can they really quickly deal with this comparative pressure through social media?
So see, one thing, it's not that I am anti-technology, but I am a person who does not believe too much in social media presence. Because what I have seen, what is people posting on social media versus what their actual lives are two different levels. So this I have seen, because for that you need to be observant. You need to know people, you need to talk to people, and then you realize how different their social media and their actual life is. Coming to your question, when you said that how to deal with that, to deal with that, it is very important that we understand that every person has two faces: one that you show to the others, and one that you know who you actually are or what your life actually is. Social media is also that kind of a mirror. What you are seeing on that mirror is not actually what it is, right? So the day you realize that this is not all true what is shown, and you stop that comparison that they are doing this, I am not doing that, and be happy with what you have, that is the day that mental pressure will stop. And stop being on social media platforms. I am not on any social media platform except LinkedIn. That's my personal choice though, but I would
Yeah.
suggest platforms like LinkedIn are good for networking, which is very important.
Mhm.
Platforms like Instagram are the platforms which create pressure. With AI coming in, you do not even know what is true and what is not true. AI can make videos very realistically.
So Shikha, who are you as a trainer? So we know Shikha, we have known Shikha as a person, we have known Shikha as a mother, we have known Shikha as a child, and how did you evolve as a person? Now, if I ask you about how does your clients feel when Shikha comes in front of them, So who is that Shikha? Let's talk about her.
Okay. So, talking about Shikha, the facilitator. So I am somebody who is a performance enabler, I would say. And why do I say that? Because from the very beginning, I have been very, how should I put it? Very inquisitive in terms of understanding people, their behavior, and what can make them change. So that thing I have already focused on. So now also when I design journeys for my clients or when I design programs for my clients, what I need to understand first is that why behind that program, which is very important. And that's what differentiate most of the time when I speak to my clients about the feedback, that I dig deep. A client giving me a challenge that we want to improve the sales, that's not something that I am looking at. That is a objective that you want to. Why is that happening? Why the sales is not happening? What is stopping the people? I dig deep. So my discovery calls are as long as sometimes 1.5 hours with the client to dig deep and understand. And that's what my clients appreciate about me. The deeper instincts that I go with, the deeper knowledge that I go with, and then I frame my programs according to not the sole objective which was told in the beginning, but with the deeper understanding that I have gone. So when I speak about my sessions are less of tools and frameworks. It is more in terms of reflection, that why is it important and what it can get you to. As I said, intent versus impact. So I focus more on the impact in my sessions, that what will be the impact. And that's what differentiate my sessions.
They find in your program, they connect with you and then they later engage with you for a longer period of time, as you said, like 6, 7 years also
Yeah.
altogether. So what differentiator do they you think that they really find in you, which probably they don't get anywhere?
So see, in as an independent consultant, most of the trainers, they do a training program, and then if the feedback score is good or if the NPS or VOC is good, that is good. They think they have done their job, which means they are focusing more on the content, on the delivery. I go a step beyond. When I do a session, post the session exactly after a month or say after 1.5 months, I go back to each and every participant. I asked them that during this session, there was one learning that you committed towards the end of the session that I will start doing or I will stop doing. How has it helped you? And helped you not in terms, somebody can say, I am a better listener. No, you have to quantify it in measurable terms, how you have done it. So, in terms of time, in terms of cost, in terms of quality, in terms of parameters which are measurable, how it has helped you as a professional or your organization. And this I do not most of the time charge my client. This is something that is included as a part of the program. Now, somebody would ask me, why do you do that? Why do you invest your 2 days after the program into this? It is because when I am saying to the client that I am digging deep so that a transformation may happen, I show to the client. I demonstrate it to the client how the participants have benefited. And once they see that, the probability that our engagement moves for a longer period of time increases. In some cases, it does not even. In some cases, it does. So that is my personal belief, that your responsibility as an independent consultant does not end when your session ends. It is also beyond that. When one transformation or one learning has been applied, it's a success or a failure is a different thing. Has it been applied or not is something that is also your accountability. So that's what changes.
Shows that you have the, I mean, an idea of that, every woman's voice of her, and not just like the polished version, but the raw and real thing that we are just talking about, everyday women really feels and experience. So is there something you said publicly before and today you want to share it with everyone?
Predna, can you repeat the question once again?
Okay. So I was saying, Shika, that since you know that this show is built with a vision that every woman's voice deserve to be heard, not the polished version, but the raw and real thing that we are just talking about in our conversation today, the failures, the breakdowns, the struggles, and the happy moments and sad moments, something that built us. Is there something that you have never spoken about publicly and today maybe you want to talk about it to our viewers, to our listeners?
So see, this is a very good thing, and you're asking me on camera something that I've not spoken about, and I would like to speak. Still, I will like to speak. So I spoke about validation and approval, right? in my previous thing. Where does that came from was, as I told you, I had miscarriages. At that time, a lot of people judged me because they said that I am working so hard as a professional to prove that I can be a good worker, or to prove that yes, I can climb up the ladder faster than the others. There were people who came straight forward on my face and said that. That created a kind of self doubt in me in terms of, are my choices correct? Because that time their validation and approval mattered a lot, right? And especially the first miscarriage, when it happened just 3 years after my marriage. So those people validation and approval mattered a lot. And there was a phase after my second miscarriage that my commitment towards my job, towards my career, little bit slowed down. That was a difficult phase for me, because one side I was thinking I'm doing right, but inside my heart I knew this is not the way I perform or I work. So that's where I say that don't go by what people say. Ultimately, what is supposed to happen will happen. So after two miscarriages, there was a point in our life when we thought, okay, fine, this is not the path we have to move, and it may not probably happen. But then it happened, right? And all those people who were blaming me that time, I was working that time also, still blessed with a child. My commitment was higher than what it was previously, because now I was more focused towards one thing only rather than towards the motherhood journey as well. So what I'm trying to say is that do not go for validation and approval. Just do what you want to do. Focus on that and never give up your dream.
Very important, if you're dreaming of doing something. And I think, I mean, just sharing a small reflection about my life also, because, I mean, perhaps we are sailing in the same sort of boat. As you said, no, don't give up on your dream. Building something on your own changes you as a person. It always looks ideal from outside, but what's happening inside is much different. When you do it, you know it. So choose wisely, very rightly, as you said, Shikha, that make a choice and then embrace it. So thank you so much, Shikha. Today it was a wonderful interaction with you. Had a lot of learnings from the experiences that you have shared, and it also kind of gives us a sense of relief, that women's we are seeing today who are standing tall not only to build their own life but change life of others. It's not a bed of roses, but it's a choice that you make, and
Right.
transformation is never easy. If it is not easy for you, imagine if you're doing it for so many other people, and you are a living example of that, how you have navigated different phases of your life like every other woman that we see who is somewhere today. It's not because of anything rosy, but it's because the choices basically that you made, and you stand by those. So thank you so much. And thank you for sharing these valuable insights with my viewers today. And I'm sure that they will feel happy, good, relieved from whatever we are talking. And more power to you, and more
Thank
power
you.
to the other women who are
To
connected
you
with
too.
us. Thank you so much. Yeah, more power to all the women who are connected with us through this podcast, who are listening. And I feel they will feel heard, that that's the whole objective of doing this entire program. So thank you so much for being with me, Shikha. And thank
Thank
you
you,
to
friend.
all the viewers. Thank you to all the viewers who are sticking with us towards this end of this program. Once again, I would like to request you, if you like this program, please like it, share it, and subscribe it. Thank you so much. Join
Thanks
us.
a lot. Have a great day. Bye
Thank you.
bye. Bye.
Bye bye.